Here we are for iFiddle Magazine one more time. Mike has asked me to do something about chords. I was a little bit of at a loss to what to call this segment, but we'd like to I'd like to have me teach how to make knowledge about chords not be in the way of your brain so you can actually still play music. So we didn't know what to call this. I'm doing like a grassroots thing here. So what do you think? I'll hold up a sign. Should we call it practical chords? Is that a good name for this? Making chords useful? Maybe? Question marks. Are chords, what are they good for? Or chords, what's the rest there? What can you do with them? Well, I hope they answer all these questions. They're kind of silly questions. I mean, what good is a fiddler knowing chords if you can only play one note at a time, or maybe two at best? Well, the answer to that is it's best to know the inner workings of music so you can play and choose your one or two notes that fit perfectly with the chords to make up background parts or harmonies or whatever else. So you can be able to sit in with the band even if you don't know the tune and kind of hear the changes or figure them out pretty easy and know what notes are in the chords, and there you go. It's not rocket science. It might be a little daunting for people who are not used to music theory. I hate that word, the term music theory. It makes it sound like something theoretical, like it's just a maybe kind of idea. It's a possibility. No, this is the way music works. I like to call it music mechanics. I think it's a better term. So let's start off with continue with our grassroots thing. Chords. What are they? Well, for that, I'll probably best to explain it not on the violin, but on the piano here. So let me move the camera over to the piano so you can get a good glimpse. Now you're not here for a piano lesson, but the piano has everything laid out. It's very logical. The low notes are down here, the high notes are over there, the white keys are the natural notes, the black keys are the flats and sharps. Many of you probably know this. So let me move the camera and we'll go from there. Okay, here I am at my trusty piano, and we have, if you don't know piano, a quick piano lesson, the white keys are the natural notes, black keys are the flats and sharps, like I said. Here is C. The C major scale, which is the easiest one on piano because it's all white keys, is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now you may know this, but now here's where people get lost, and the fiddlers especially. Chords are basically every other note of a scale, so skipping one. First note, skip one. Next one, skip one. You got it? So every other note of the scale. So, and also, we number all the notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 being the same as 1. And this chord, every other note starting from the first note, is the first chord in the key of C. Make sense? Here is the second chord, the third chord, the fourth chord, the fifth chord, the sixth chord, the seventh chord, and the eighth being the same as 1. Got the basic idea? Now if you don't catch all that, don't worry about it. What I want to focus on here today is the first chord, the fourth chord, and the fifth chord. These three make up 90% of music. Alright, again, the first chord, the fourth chord, and the fifth chord. Don't worry about the rest of them for now. The 1, the 4, and the 5. You may hear musicians speak about this. Okay, let's go back to the other camera. So, back from the piano. You get the idea? The 1, 4, and the 5 make up 90% of music in every style. I don't care if it's Mozart, if it's Happy Birthday, if it's a fiddle tune, especially fiddle tunes. If you get the Fiddler's Fake Book, there's about 500 tunes in there. Now I bet at least 85% of them are all nothing but 1, 4, 5, now in any given key. Now I just showed you the key of C. It's very easy to see it on the piano, no pun intended. C, F, and G. Those three chords go together in thousands of songs. Now it depends on what note is the tonic. If it's in the key of D, is a little more fiddle friendly, has an F sharp and a C sharp in it, it will create the one of the key of D would be a D chord. D, E, F, G, and then G chord would be the 4 chord, and an A chord would be the 5 chord. So get it? The pattern just shifts to the new key. So let's take a look at my grassroots paperwork here. So the key of C, and by the way, chord numbers are usually spoken of and written in Roman numerals like this, I, V, and V. So the key of C is C, F, and G. Those are the 1, 4, 5 in the key of C. The key of D, as I just mentioned, is D, G, and A. The key of G, very common for fiddle music, is G, C, and D. And the key of A, D, and E. If you know these 4 keys, you're in the club. 90% of all or more fiddle music will be in this, or a related key maybe. All right? So get to memorize those 3. You'll find them together in songs all the time. All the And if you hear musicians go, "Oh, sit in with us, come on," but I don't know the song, you may say. Doesn't matter. They'll say, "Oh, it's easy, just 1-4-5. Follow me." Just cozy up to the nearest guitar player and let them kind of tell you the chords. So let's what notes are in these chords? Let's see. If you memorize about 6 of them, you've done most fiddling. So C, we already covered that, is C, E, G. If you can learn to memorize that, here's another sheet. C, E, G. Memorize it. Play around with it. Play these notes. Now, do fiddlers play chords like a guitar? No, we play one note at a time. So C, E, G, G, E, C. Any C, any E, any G, anywhere on your fiddle will harmonize with a C chord. Make sense? They're made of that, so any of those notes in any octave, anywhere, will make up C harmonizing stuff. F, we covered. F-A-C. Memorize that. Make yourself a flashcard, whatever you got to do. Just memorize it. G-B-D. That's the G chord. G's, B's, and D's anywhere on your fiddle will make anything that will harmonize with a G chord. Get the idea? Now there's a few others that you'll learn to, and you'll need to. For the key of D, F sharp, and A. Remember, it had to be 2 whole steps away, so D to E is a whole step, and then E to F sharp is another whole step. It's spaced fingerings on your fiddle. So memorize that one, D, F sharp, A. Memorize A, C sharp, E, and memorize E, G sharp, B. Why these 3? Because these 6 make up the 1-4-5 in some very common keys. Like we went back here. Let me pick up my sheet from the floor. Remember these 1-4-5 we did a little earlier? C, F, and G. There's the 3. If you know what 3 notes are in that chord, 3 notes are in this chord, 3 notes in this chord, you can play over anything in the key of C. 3 notes in this chord, 3 notes in this chord, 3 notes in this chord, etc. So if you have those few memorized, you're in the club. Now, back to the original statement. Where was that on the floor here? I dropped that one. So what can you do with them? I don't have to pick that piece of paper up. All right, let's give you some things to work on to try to know the chords so you can fill in the background or be the second violin in a string quartet, or just follow the changes, or in a bluegrass situation, kind of follow the guitar chords and know what notes to go in. All right, one thing you can do to play along is just play the name of the chord. So if the guitar player is saying G, it's got to have a G note in it, right? So it's just play G, 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 G. Any G. Now I recommend you keep the notes when you're harmonizing a little lower in the register in your instrument to stay out of the way of melodic instruments, because most fiddle tunes, will be on the top strings. So if you get down to the bottom, it might get out of their way. So that's one thing. Just stick. You don't have to overthink it. Just stick in the bottom strings. So if you're key of G, and the 4 chord number was what? C. The 5 chord was D. G. You do that, you're at least playing something. Now that might be pretty boring enough in a short order. So number 2 I wrote down my list here. Play any chord tone. So now here's where you have to have the 3 notes memorized. Remember, the key of the G chord was G, B's, and D's, anywhere. So you can move them around. Anything you want. C chord. C, E, G. Anything. D. D, F sharps, and A's. Anything you want. Sounds kind of like something right away, doesn't it? All right, so play any chord tone. Now, in my opinion, that's okay too. None of this is wrong. That might get kind of arpeggio-y sounding. It might sound like you're too much in the just playing chord tones. So, and it might sound disjuncted or separate. Okay, I'm on this chord, now I'm on this chord. It might sound not as smooth. Another way to make it smoother, number 3 I have on my list here, to tell you, is move to the nearest chord tone when the chord changes. So say you're in the key of G. G, B, D. So you're playing G. So the next chord in the song is a D chord. Well, what's the nearest note to a G that's in a D chord? And you have to have that memorized. D, F sharp, you hear it, and A. F sharp is only a half step away. G chord, D chord, G chord. Now the nearest note may be the exact same note. Say it's going to go to a C chord. You're on a G, G, B's, and D's. I'm choosing a G, and it goes to C. C, C. It has a G in it as well. G, C, E, G, right? Stay on the same note. F sharp for the D chord and G. So if you keep your notes kind of close by each other, it sounds like you're weaving an intelligent line around the chord changes. And you are intelligent at this point. You are not ignorant of what chords are and what they can do. You are in full knowledge of this simple information. So, you feeling it? You there? You getting there? I already mentioned to voice your harmonies on the lower strings is my recommendation. Higher strings is not wrong. Any like say on a G chord, any G, B, D, anywhere is fine. But you may want to get out of the way of the melody if you're going to be playing a second violin or an accompaniment part. Another thing you can do to try to learn this stuff is, besides like I mentioned, maybe make some flashcards and play some arpeggios on your fiddle, is take your favorite fiddle tunes and actually analyze them. Look at the chord symbol above the measure. Say it's a G. I keep going back to G in our examples. G. And look how many of the notes are G's, B's, and D's. I bet a lot of them, with only some simple passing notes to those main ones. It might be, there's G, B, D. Yeah, I did a little A in between. The sixth note of the scale is a popular one too. So then you got a trick to maybe getting towards improvisations is too. If you have the triad, the notes are in the chord, you can't go wrong with those. And the second note and the sixth note are kind of very friendly notes to add too. You want to just use those as little flipper notes. So you getting some ideas? Tear apart your favorite fiddle tunes and see how many of the notes actually are from the chord tones in that measure underneath that chord. I bet you'll learn a whole bunch. Another thing you can do, and is what I did when I first started improvising, when I studied jazz guitar as a young teen, the teacher would have me create my own solos. He said, write them out at first, and eventually you'll be able to improvise them on the spot, but write them out. You can write out your own backup parts, like pick a tune, one that you know preferably, and can have the chord changes, the backup chords, and see if you can go through and map out, okay, this is a G chord, it has G, B, D's, here's a C chord, that's the 4 chord, I know that, it says C, E, G. And then see if you can make a little counter melody using those notes only and kind of use all the ideas I'm giving you here. So these are all things you can do to try and know what's going on in music and know the inner workings of simple tunes like fiddle tunes and folk tunes and even blues and country songs. Even some Mozart is only 2 or 3 chords, a lot of it. And the backups of most music is pretty simple. 3 chords, and usually the 1, 4, and the 5. If you memorize those 1s, 4s, and 5s, where is that sheet? I got them here somewhere. Again, review quickly. If you know these 4 keys, you'll be able to play most things in fiddle. C, the 1, 4, and 5 chords are C, F, G, and D. It's D, G, A, and the key of G, G, C, D, and an A, D, E. If you know those, like I said, you're in the club. And then if you also, on top of that, have the 3 notes that each of those chords is made out of, that would lead you to these 6 chords to cover all 4 of those, all 1, 4, and 5 of these 4 keys. Believe it or not, because they share a bunch. It's only 6 chords. If you know these 6 chords, you can play thousands of songs. And you can know your way around thousands of songs, even if you don't know the tune. All right? So, there is the quick and easy how to play over, under I should say, chord tones on a fiddle tune or easy folk tune or roots music, as I like to call it. Anything. It could be a rock song if it only has got 3 chords. It's the same stuff. 3 chords and 3 notes in each chord. So it's only 9 notes you might have to know to be able to fit perfectly with any song. Most any song. All right, I hope that's helpful. And thanks to Mike for having me once again. Thanks for listening. And I hope to see you next month. All right? Check out my Fiddle Jam Institute. By the way, I also could give a little pitch. I do have a course on the Fiddle Jam Institute that is called Music Mechanics 101. If you want to learn, go into this stuff in a little more depth, you can go to the school store there and check that out. So, cheers and happy fiddling.